Allie, we're starting!
Allie, we're doing the thing.
We really are doing the thing. And it's been a little while that we've been talking about doing the thing. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much for your patience with me.
Oh, same, dude. Like, life is crazy. It just keeps throwing things in our way, you know? And,
it really is.
But that's what life is. And then overcoming the obstacles and prioritizing what's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that you said that, because in my experience, it's so almost impossible to decide what's important to us. And a big part of that is because we're so distracted by these social constructs that make us feel like we're not enough, like we have to be somebody that we aren't, like we have to please the people around us. And really, that's the biggest lie of life.
Yeah, it's the veil that you have to kind of fall through to see that it really is your life that you're supposed to be living, not what somebody else thinks you should be doing.
Right. We met back in November, I believe.
Yeah.
And instantly just connected. I feel like there's certain people in the world who are kind of a mirror in a way, you know, and they're willing to mirror positive aspects of who you are back to you. And that's such a powerful way to relate with people. So often when we meet somebody new, we might go straight to judgment. Right?
Yeah.
We might assume that that person is going to think some type of way about us, or have some type of expectation for us that we can't meet. And so automatically we feel scared, nervous. And I didn't have any of that with you. And that's such a beautiful gift. And I want to thank you for showing up in the world like that. And I'm curious because, you know, I know my background, I know my story, I know why I today am very free and focused on the positive things in life. And I find that a lot of people in that space, you know, we use a lot of the same language. Mm. And one of the things that I just heard you say was, you know, going through the veil. And that might be, I mean, I totally understand what you're saying. Somebody on the outside might be like, what veil are they talking about? Like, there's nothing in front of my face. Like, what's happening? So I would love to know, how did you get to this space? Was it something that was a, like, awakening one day, and then the next day you were like, I'm spiritual? Or was it something that you grew into gradually?
Yeah, well, I would say I feel like there are aspects of both of those. So I honestly found a lot of information on social media because we live in an era of free information, of knowledge is everywhere. And I decided to use that to my benefit instead of to my detriment, and follow people who heard me, who made me feel seen, who gave me information that could answer the questions on why I was feeling the way that I was. Why did I feel like I wasn't good enough? Why did that little voice in my head tell me that I wasn't worthy of living? Like, that didn't make any sense to me. It made me feel really scared, and like I would cry a lot for no reason, what felt like. But following people, specifically Dr. Nicole Pera, she, to this day, still gives me tidbits of information that, I don't know, just make me feel whole.
That is such an important part of the shift. And I think, you know, you did answer that, you know, was it a one and done awakening, or was it gradual over time? I think that it is gradual over time. Curating our input channels. What comes into my mind.
Right,
you
consuming.
Know?
What are we consuming?
Right, exactly. And really being mindful about that, and deciding, like, or recognizing this TV show that I'm really zoned into. If I get really caught up in a storyline, even if it's not my storyline, I recognize that I start behaving that way. I start emulating the people that I am entertained by. And that's not always a supportive environment. If you think about it, if you just think about cop shows for a second. Almost every single episode is 1 hour long. There's a huge problem, and then they fix it within an hour. Within an hour. And typically they're very moody. They have their, something that makes them an outcast, and they're trying to overcome that, but they always, end up being either too abrasive or, whatever it is, they're constantly pushing the rules. And so I find that a lot of times our entertainment is not necessarily the people that we want to be emulating, because it's not a realistic situation.
Yeah.
So if we can be more mindful, and I love too that you mentioned one of the people that is supporting you.
Yeah.
Because I went through a very similar situation on my social media, and I've had to do it multiple times. I just call it like cleaning out my closet,
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of times you might hit follow on somebody and you've been following them for years and just kind of forget about it. But the thing is, it's in our algorithm who we follow, right? And so their interests affect what pops up on our feed. And there are times when I've had to go through and, especially around political seasons, where I've had to go through and unfollow people because what they're putting up on their profiles is poisoning my social media and my mindset. And I don't appreciate that. And previously I felt like if I unfollowed someone, it was rude. And they had a right to get upset with me. And the fact of the matter is, they do have a right to get upset with me.
Yeah.
And I have a right to say, okay, I see that you're upset. I still don't appreciate that content on my feed, on my feed.
Yeah, absolutely. And being respectful about what you want.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. It's not your job for other people to like you.
Absolutely.
That's
one of the hardest lessons to learn.
Yeah.
In my experience. Whew, I'm still learning that lesson. It's not something that I think we achieve until we're dead.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we're social creatures.
Yeah.
We're meant to be. We're meant to be surrounded by people. But you have to realize the people who want the best for you. Mm-hmm. People who give you unconditional love doesn't always look like giving you exactly what you want right now. Mm-hmm. It looks like giving you what you need right now, because a lot of times we think we need something, but it's really we want that. But what we really need is for someone to tell us the truth. Mm-hmm. And it might hurt, but the unconditional love part comes in is when they keep showing up for you after that.
Yes. 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 And sometimes, just a quick little interjection, because one of the words that I've been working on a lot lately is ahimsa, so that's nonviolence. And the way that ahimsa works is being nonviolent to yourself first, and then being nonviolent towards the world around us. Cheers. And a lot of times, I know, me too. A lot of times, I like your tattoo.
Thank you.
A lot of times when we think about our actions, we're thinking about how our actions are going to affect other people, or how other people are going to respond to our actions, and that can actually be kind of manipulative to, act in a certain way, expecting a certain response. And that's not sustainable for me. I can't sustain that without becoming bitter and resentful. And what I've recognized is a lot of times, because of those social constructs, I'm making choices or decisions based on how I feel other people are going to respond to those decisions. And that does not consider myself and what is really, truly best for me. So I think that, while so many of us are taught as we grow up that we need to be mindful of our siblings, that their feelings matter, it's not that those things are not true. Those people and their feelings do matter. But if I am outside of myself because I'm so concerned about how they're going to respond, I'm not acting authentically. I'm acting with a mask on. I'm literally just acting.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only true way to get connection is to be authentic.
Right.
Or else you're not really connecting with someone else. It's not going to feel real. You're not going to get the healing properties of like authentic connection. You have to be, honest and genuine to yourself, because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, you have yourself, and you have to go to sleep knowing that you're happy with your decisions and that you are taken care of.
Yeah. One of the things that's been so difficult for me to recognize is when other people are unable to care for me. And part of that, goes back to that whole wanting to sacrifice and wanting to, be a boon for other people and never to be a detractor. And that's such a negative mindset for myself, to imagine that if I don't behave a certain way, like if I don't behave the way that this person wants me to behave, I'm a detractor.
Okay. Yeah. And that probably stems from wanting to not feel rejection. Right? So
absolutely.
Because you want this person in your life and you don't want them to leave you, you feel as though you have to behave this way for them to stay around.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not always easy to remember that, the reason that we get rejected is because they're not meant for us. They're not, whatever is behind what we can't see is not there for us.
Absolutely. When did you start your journey? Like, when do you feel was the initial shift in your life? Like, I'm tired of doing things the typical way. I'm ready to shift into abundance that I create, love that I create, that type of mindset.
I started like my weight loss journey, which I kind of mix it all in together because it's
absolutely,
I was really just trying to transform myself. And then when I realized that taking care of yourself is much more than your physical health, that's when, so I started that in May of 2020. I would say I had what I would call my my first dark night of the soul.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying.
First one. That was probably in, I want to say April or May of 2021. I literally spent the entire day in bed, could not move. I literally got up to go to the bathroom. My boyfriend was like, if you could do 2 things for me today, please get up and take a walk and take a shower. He was like, that's it. If you can do those things, I'll be happy. If not, it's fine. I think a lot of it is just kind of recognizing the conditions that you've been given and like the biases that have been taught to you. Because really, when it comes down to it, the truth is that we're all connected. We're all one. We're all humans. We're all made up of the same things, and we all deserve love. But that really has to start with you. Because if you try to give someone love while disrespecting yourself, you're teaching that person that it's okay to disrespect me, and that's not love. So you're not really teaching them love. You don't have to be disrespectful to them as well, but it's about removing yourself and saying, I'm teaching you patience, or I'm teaching you, you cannot treat me this way. I have to remove myself. I have to respect myself. We are all one. We're all our own universe. So if you're taking care of your universe, the universe is going to take care of you.
Amen. Amen. No, I love that so much because I was literally just yesterday, I pulled some archetype cards and posted a YouTube video about, the reading. And I was talking about how typically I just pull one archetype card and just kind of consider where I might be at the moment, where I might be heading at the moment, that kind of idea, what I need to learn from a past situation. I decided to pull 4 archetype cards because I wanted to just look at the past, the present, the future, and then kind of my core person. And it was really just rotating in my mind that we go through these cycles endlessly throughout life. And we can get so attached to who I want to be, right? But at the end of the day, if we're so attached to that person, we miss out on so many opportunities to explore and experience different parts of humanity. We're not always going to be the leader all the time. Sometimes it's really important to be a student. We're not always going to be going up the corporate ladder. Sometimes we have to take a rebound and go back to the bottom and start again. And these are not failures. These are not, ways in which we've let ourselves down. It's not ways in which we've let society down. It's simply just our path and our journey. And if we can accept that and recognize what I'm in right now is not where I'm going to be forever, how powerful is that? And I think we have this mindset of I'm born and I go to kindergarten and I go to first grade through 12th grade. And then after that, I go to college or I go to some trade school and then I start working. And then it's just onward and upward from there, one foot wrong after the other, right? And that is just the biggest lie that we teach ourselves, that we train ourselves to believe.
Yeah, and it's not even that, we're doing the training,
right?
Though, right? So it's like we're born into this world, and a lot of times we do our best to just be ourselves, and then someone says, I don't like that. You shouldn't do that. You're a bad boy. All of these things teach us that we're not okay as we are, and we start to internalize those external voices and hear who I am is not okay. And to me, this may be a little controversial, but that's trauma. That is trauma. Any sort of little piece of your spirit that gets taken off is trauma, and
absolutely,
that is where you have to learn how to heal. And that's personally why I love Nicole LePera so much, because she has done such a tremendous job making nervous system learning and healing to the layperson so available. It makes so much sense the way she describes it and the tips and tricks that she gives to help you heal. But the truth is, you already have everything. You have all of the information on how to heal. The body is innate. It knows what it needs to heal. You just have to trust yourself and not really care what anybody else thinks to do it. Because your healing is going to make no sense to anyone else but you.
Yeah. Speaking of, you're kind of in the middle of a healing journey right now, a big shift, we'll put it that way. And I want to let you know that you are glowing right now. Your hair is looking fantastic. Your soul is just really at peace, and I can see that. And even though there's still confusion and there's still, fear that's festering or just kind of popping up every once in a while, I can see that the decision that you made to remove yourself from the workforce for a little while and focus on home life and really curating what you want from life. I have chills because first of all, it's really great to watch on social media because I love to see, first of all, the shift into you working on yourself. Not being concerned about what other people are thinking, not being concerned about what other people think you should be doing. That's so powerful, and the fact that you're sharing it with the world is even more powerful, in my opinion. We need more people who show us that there is not just one way to live, that these social constructs are a choice, not a requirement for life. And a lot of times when we release the social constructs, the things that we think that we need, like you mentioned before, that it either falls away so effortlessly that we realize, oh, wow, I really didn't need that, or it shows up for us. And we're like, dang, I thought I was going to have to work a lot harder for that, right? Like, yeah. I can't even tell you, for years I've been seeking to grow my social media influence, right? And it was so hard, and it was not happening. And as soon as I stopped trying, I had 3 subscribers last night. 3 new subscribers, and that's crazy to me because I might get 3 new subscribers in a month. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really have not been pushing this channel, and a big part of that is because maybe I don't feel like I deserve to be someone in the spotlight teaching these truths because, well, who am I? Just a little country redneck girl who was raised by a pastor trying to like live my best life in adulthood, and finding that my best life is in a lot of ways the antithesis to what my parents wanted me to be. And that's a little bit of a mind fudge, especially for someone who feels such a deep burden to fulfill the expectations of others. And I think part of that was, you know, being a pastor's child and being told that life was harder for me because Satan was going to be attacking me more than he was going to attack other kids because I was in the spotlight. And if the pastor's kid doesn't behave well, why would the congregation?
Wow.
And what a heavy responsibility that is for a little child. And, you know, I don't think that my parents meant to traumatize me that way. I don't think that they intended to give me that big responsibility. I think they were given a massive responsibility. And when you can pass part of that responsibility on to someone else, it feels a little bit better on you, right? I recognize this in my parenting habits, where even now, even though I know how being forced to be an adult as a child was so damaging to me, I see myself when I'm really exhausted, when I'm on my, you know, hungry, angry, lonely, tired streak, I see myself passing off responsibility to my son. Thankfully today, because I'm aware of it now, once I see it, I recognize it, and I think, is this really what I want to be doing? It's so easy for us to transfer our traumas onto our children. And there's something in the Bible that says that the sins of our forefathers are carried on from generation to generation. And that really resonates with me because I see it, I live it, I've experienced that. And I think it's incredibly powerful when humanity decides to heal before having children, or just decides not to have children at all and reparent themselves. I think that's such a beautiful gift to society, if you will. So following that, I'm a little bit curious about your family life as you were growing up. How do you feel that that shaped you into who you are today, and what motivated you to be the change?
Wow, that's a good question. I first want to start with saying thank you for all of the kind words about my life and the transition that I'm going through. And I also want to speak about your compassion with your parents and recognizing that what they were doing was not intentional to you. And just from what I've experienced is, you know, a lot of the times when we get responsibilities, those trigger emotions and of fear or you know, stress. Cortisol is released in the system. Instead of regulating that emotion, which is just energy, we can transfer it instead, which is what I think, you know, may have happened and happens quite frequently to a lot of children. But I think emotional regulation is very, very important, because when you remember that life will never give you more than you can handle, and just remember that right now is not going to last forever, it's much easier to be able to regulate that and not transfer it to someone else.
Absolutely.
So my home life growing up, I actually had a pretty, like, I was a lucky kid. Like, we never went without, I was at the, well, you know, I would say I'm a lucky kid, but now looking back, I wish I would have spent more time outside. I wish I would have learned more about cooking and taking care of myself, but, like, I didn't not have anything. We went to the mall every weekend. I was, you know, I played sports. I had friends, you know, what I thought were friends, and my parents had a rocky relationship, so I wasn't necessarily exposed to what a healthy relationship looked like. My mom definitely struggles with even expressing her emotions, let alone regulating them. And I didn't see a lot of my dad. They had a couple of issues, and I was always the one who wanted to forgive. You know, I was just like, I don't understand why it has to be such a big deal. Let's just move on, you know. And I can see now, you know, from my mom's perspective, or, you know, like, even my dad's perspective, forgiving to them looked like weakness. It looked like, you know, why should I sacrifice who I am because of their mistake? And I can understand why they thought that, but it goes back to respecting yourself. So if they needed to change in whatever way that looked like, if they needed to spend time apart in order to either decide whether they were good for each other or they were not good for each other, that, in my opinion, should have been the best option. But obviously that's another timeline situation. That's
on a parallel universe.
Yeah. Not gonna happen. But, like, I, you know, as a kid, I recognized the power of forgiveness. But I was always told, you don't want to take that one side. So I just decided to go with my family. You know, what the majority of my family said was good for me is what I went for. You know, one of the big traumas that I remember, I was told, that side of you is not good. You shouldn't want to forgive people. So,
that's insane to think about, because forgiveness is one of the keys to freedom.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, because forgiveness is not for the other person.
No.
When you forgive someone, it's for you to be able to move on from that situation. Because if you don't move on from a situation, you're going to be constantly making emotional reactions to everyday life in that mindset. You have now, if you can't forgive from a situation, you have now locked yourself into that whatever mental age you were then for the rest of your life until you can learn how to forgive.
That's so heavy, and it's so true. And honestly, it's a big part of the reason why I have compassion for my parents, because I recognize that I too make the stupidest mistakes raising my son. How I acted at a specific time is not how I want to be seen for eternity. You know, and this was something that I was talking about last night as well on the Archetype reading, is that as we shift and change, it's so important to express that change and to share that change with other people. And the reason behind that is not so that we can be better than anybody else, but it's to prove the change, right? Because if we're not acting differently, is it just here? And if it's just here, are we judging ourselves? Are we keeping ourselves from moving forward because of fear or shame or guilt? That's super common. The problem is that when we're in that space of knowing the right thing and not speaking or doing the right thing, We become so judgmental because we're comparing ourselves to other people, but we're comparing our mind, the knowledge in our mind, to other people. And so we're thinking, well, I wouldn't act that way. But would you?
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. And that's not something that I ever really thought about. What you say or what you do, what you think, can be two completely different things. And unless you actually go out, and a lot of times I've found when you change, you have to meet new people. Like, new people just come into your life. It's not something, and I mean, this goes for everything. There is an aspect of the world that you cannot control.
Yeah.
Like that, we all experience that. We all know that. So with that aspect, anything can happen. The universe, God, Allah, can bring you whatever, can, like, create opportunities for you, and they'll just show up. You know, like, someone might call you. You have no idea how they got your number, but they're gonna call you, and you're gonna have a new chance to be the person that you are trying to be, that you have, like, either learned new information or you've experienced something new, you've healed in a way that you're now capable of portraying the behavior of that change.
And I think to create that change, we really need mantras. Because, again, the thoughts that arise in our mind are not necessarily thoughts that we've put there. It might be thoughts that were sown there by society or by our caregivers. And so to recognize that this thought that continually pops up is not one that I want to be thinking. How am I going to shift that? Well, obviously, when we start talking, that voice in our head goes really quiet, because we're listening to ourselves speak. And I love to tell people this because it's so, I mean, silly. How many of us don't make the connection, but I didn't make the connection, that our body hears us talk.
Yeah.
Like, our body hears us and believes what we say without a question. So those thoughts that are going on, the negative thoughts that are going on in our head, if we can reframe that with a verbal sentence, we are powerfully impacting our body and our mind.
Yeah.
I find that repeating mantras over and over on a consistent basis literally shifts the thoughts that pop up in my mind. I started mantras back in 2018. Today, my positive thoughts outweigh my negative thoughts. It's taken a very long time of continually repeating positive thoughts. Sometimes I didn't believe them at first, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's just like anything else. You know, the more that we consistently take a break and practice mantras, the more our brain will shift into that space naturally.
Yeah, and that's called neuroplasticity.
Yes.
Yeah, so rewiring your brain waves by consistent experience or practice.
Right? And it's so simple.
Yeah.
So many times we think, oh, I have to go hire somebody. I need a coach. I need a therapist. And please, go see a therapist. Go to therapy.
Yeah, if you feel like this journey alone is too much, too overwhelming, please, reach out to anybody. Like, I am willing to listen with you and be a compassionate witness, because that is really what you need. You need a compassionate witness, someone who believes you, because regardless of whether or not your experience is what it looked like to somebody else is irrelevant.
Absolutely.
What your experience was is valid, is real. Like, we are all born with different sensitivity levels. So what I saw from childhood and what my sister saw from childhood, completely two different experiences, because we're two different people who were born with different, like, I am so much more emotional than my sister, like, entirely. So how I explained what happened in childhood is completely different.
Yeah.
I call them affirmations. So very similar, like, and gratitude was something that really, really affected me. Like, when I first started practicing gratitude, I was like, I don't even feel it. I don't know what, like, but then, like,
what does gratitude feel like?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, like, a couple of weeks, I was like, I feel like this warmth in my chest, this, like, sense of hope and peace and everything is fine. Like, I have everything I need. Like,
I'm getting chills again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, it's such a beautiful thing. Because, like, really, we're born with nothing, right? You're born naked with...
And happy.
Yeah,
I mean, you're crying, but that's just because there's a big change, right?
Right.
Like, babies calm down very quickly after birth.
Yeah. And, like, no pockets in a shroud. You can't take anything with you. So I have a shirt on my back. I am on the plus. I already have more, and I have an abundance. I have so much more than just the shirt on my back.
Yeah.
So,
and that's such a blessing.
Yeah.
To consider, you know, where we could be and where we are now.
Yeah. And I want to also mention, you said that, you know, it took a long time, 2018 to 2023, but, like, how old were you when you started that?
27.
So you went through 27 years of life with negative thoughts consistently roaming in your head, and it took 5 years. So to think of the, you know, comparison of, that's pretty quick change. You know, that's like people with weight loss. They're like, you know, oh, you know, I'm 40 some years old. I've, you know, always been overweight, but I want to lose 50 pounds in 3 months. It's like, but you're, you know, 40 something now, and it's been 40 years, and then it's going to take, you know, it's not going to take 40 years to lose it, but it's about having trust, having faith that what you're doing is right. And because your body knows what is right, your brain knows what is right, it's about that voice in your head that's saying, I don't want to do this, I want to do that. And why is it trying to tell you that? You know, we've got to get to the underlying reason of why. Like, personally, I didn't feel like I was worthy of my life. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't helping enough people. That's really what I brought it down to, was I had this huge dream of saving the world. And when I was told I'm not allowed to be who I am, I'm not good enough, I was never going to save the world, I was destroying myself. I was trying to end my life with food. And then I started recognizing how powerful it is to actively decide those thoughts were not right. I started telling myself that I was worthy of love. I was, and anything that I wanted from another person, I started doing for myself.
Ah, yes! I literally have an entry line in my journal that says, I do not need anything from anyone. Whatever I think I need from someone else, I need to give to myself. Yes.
It's so accurate.
Yes.
It is so correct. Like, and it goes for anything. If you want a compliment from somebody, or if you're, like, looking for likes on social media, or you're looking for someone to tell you that your art is good, look at your art and be like, that is so good. And it is. Like, no matter what it looks like, it is good, and it's exactly how it's supposed to be. Because if it doesn't look how you want it to look right now, you can look at it and say, how do I want it to look? And then go from there. Like, there's no such thing as failure. Failure is just an opportunity to change whatever it is you didn't like.
Yeah. And what a blessing that is. I mean, honestly, because failures feel so final. And in our temporary world, we look at failure as final, and failure is a step into a new opportunity. Failure is, that's no longer serving me, how can I shift and change? Failure is always an opportunity. Thank you so much. I didn't want to reach across the screen, but I was needing a drink. Failure is always an opportunity to reframe. And that's, you know, I love that you were talking about gratitude, because one of the things that I'm consistently asking myself whenever I find myself feeling peeved or just annoyed, I ask myself, how can I reframe this into a gratitude? Because, again, I too experience such a shift in my mood and in what I manifest when I have gratitude inside of my heart. And I'm not looking for other people to make me grateful. It's not sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. Because all humans, they're, you know, for the most part, they're temporary.
Yeah.
Right? Anybody who comes into your life, they're not going to be there forever. Whether it's death that takes them, or it's a change of scenery, or, you know, a change in heart. Some people, they're not meant to be in your life forever. And that's okay. But, like, recognizing the positives that they have, that you can work together, like, you can, like I, like, freaking met you, what, 4 months ago, and I consider you one of my closest friends. Yeah. Like, I don't tell people half the things that I tell you, because, like, you know, I'm very careful with where I place my energy, because you know, I think it's very important that I, you know, keep it, and that's probably some healing that I need to do.
Well, you know, I want to say, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing or a poor idea, because sharing our energy is actually very intimate.
Yeah.
You know, we think a lot about intimacy meaning sex, and intimacy being inappropriate because it means sex. And it doesn't.
No.
Intimacy is literally into me. I'm letting you see. I'm letting you see into me. And that's amazing. It's such a gift, and it's not something we should just hand out willy-nilly. You know, this is something that I struggle with, because I love to tell the truth. I take vulnerable honesty to the next level, and I forget oftentimes ahimsa, nonviolence, and satya, truthfulness, but truthfulness is after nonviolence. So thinking to myself, is this truth, that is my truth, necessary to share? Is it necessary to share with this person? And oftentimes I recognize it's not. And it's probably going to be more beneficial for me to allow that person to continue thinking whatever they've been thinking about me, and to just continue on my merry little way, you know? Because I can trust people so easily, and I believe people the way that they present themselves to me. And so I'm learning to be more mindful, and to pay more attention to the whole picture of a person as I get to know someone. But again, wanting to be inclusive to everyone, wanting everyone to like me, I have often let my guard down too quickly, trusted people too quickly, told people too much, and that regret on the backside, you know, it burns a little bit. It stings. And while I can always learn a good lesson from it, and I can, you know, reframe slipping back into that too truthful, into a gratitude, and say, well, thank you for this other new opportunity to recognize I am worthy of protecting myself. I do not need the validation of other people to move forward with my life, you know? So I think there's a balance, just as in all things.
Yeah.
There's a balance.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about when you were coming over earlier, like before you got here, I was struggling because I grew up with a mother who was very embarrassed of her house. So I was like trying not to just like let that steamroll into my life and like be like, you know, oh no, don't come over because I'm just embarrassed of what my house looks like. And that's all that I could just think of right now. Like I couldn't even.
No, I really loved that too, and I think it was probably a God thing, because I actually had to go through that same thing this weekend, because I had all of these little activities planned that keeps me out of the house, and typically I clean on weekends, and my brother's coming over today and my house is a wreck. I haven't started laundry yet, so there's piles of laundry on my floor, and throughout the week when I come home from work, I take my work clothes off and I put them on the couch because I'm going to wear them the next day, right? Well, they're still on my couch. And I wore like 3 different outfits this week, and all 3 are on my couch. So, you know, I recognize that sometimes it's okay. There's nothing wrong with not having new construction. There's nothing wrong with having outdated appliances, which I also have. There's nothing wrong with popcorn on the ceilings. I have so much popcorn on my ceilings, and it's so gross to me. I think it's disgusting. But, so it's very 80s. Like, who cares, Again, recognizing I'm so grateful that I have a place to live. Yeah. I'm so grateful that I have a place I can invite people to. And I'm so grateful personally that you opened your space, because my dog he just makes it so difficult to record things because he loves to bark and he loves to chew and he loves new people. And so he would just be all over Miss Callie and we would not even be able to get through 20 minutes. And we've already gotten through 48. So I'm so grateful that you were able to open your house for us and share this space. I'm not judging you at all. I love your little home.
Thank you.
And this is more about me. Maybe you didn't know. I grew up in trailers. I did not grow up in Loudoun County. I grew up in upstate New York. We moved all over. My dad was a pastor. A lot of times our housing was free. And so we did not have a say in our housing. We just lived there. And my mom always did her best to paint and to decorate and make things look nice. But we very often went with less than other people did and always bunked up with siblings. Never had my own bedroom until I was 14, and we had moved to Virginia. And I had my own bedroom for maybe 6 months. And then I moved in with my sister because I was so lonely in my own room. I was like, we have this big house that we live in now, and I don't know what to do with it. So, again, these social constructs. Nobody told you that your house wasn't enough.
No.
It is. It's plenty.
Yes.
It is plenty big, and it fits your needs, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And it fits our needs today.
Yeah.
So it's all gratitude.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just, recognizing that is something that was a construct.
Absolutely.
That was, I was born into that, and there was nothing I could do to get around that. And that's an experience that happened in my life.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me for it.
Nope.
That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with my mom.
Nope.
It means that is what happened, and this is how I overcome it.
Yes.
I push through the fear and go through with my plans, and this is healing.
Yes.
Her telling me that she is not judging me based on me being vulnerable and saying, I'm sorry, that's all I could think about just now. And explaining it, her saying it, and that is healing. Because now I'm not saying that'll never come up again, but I can't imagine that ever being a real fear for me again.
And that's the beauty of going through those cycles over and over and over again. It's not a one and done. And there's been such a focus from evangelicals, particularly. There's a cardinal outside sitting on that branch. It's so bright red and beautiful. Hi, pretty baby.
Oh, it's a female too.
Oh, look. Maybe they're going to make babies. Aw, that's so precious.
I love that.
I think, too, evangelicals have kind of given us this idea that if you say a prayer with a special name in that prayer and you confess that, you're a sinner and you're bound for hell without the blood of Jesus Christ, well, you're a sinner and you're bound to hell. That's it, period, right? That's so not the case. And there's so many people that have this salvation story, right? There was this one moment where I prayed and I went on an altar call. And since that altar call, I have not smoked or drank or X, Y, and Z, these social constructs that everyone thinks that we should or should not be involved in. I haven't done those things since I was saved. As if they're not tempted. as if it just disappeared from their lives. And this is a great story, and we're literally taught how to write our testimony so that we too have a salvation aha moment. And I think that's doing such a disservice to humanity, because we do not have one and done moments. Sometimes we do, but there's generally more than one. And typically, even if we have a really big moment like we just had, it may still crop up and give you an opportunity to practice gratitude and to practice your affirmations or your mantras. Because again, as long as we are living and breathing, challenges will continue to rise up.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
We don't get a free pass
No.
on pain, whether we're a Christian or whether we identify with multiple levels of religion and just recognize that there is one being that's running this universe, and we are a part of that. We're not less than other people. We are literally on an equal playing field with the rest of the humans around us. And the way that we express ourselves into that playing field is the way that people are going to respond to us. So if we continue to react to life the way that our parents did, the way that their parents did, because again, these lessons go from generation to generation. It's not something that, like, your mom didn't just wake up one day and decide she was ashamed of her house.
Yeah, no.
She probably heard her mom saying, maybe her mom said that she was really messy. You know, I don't know. But maybe that's why she's embarrassed, because it wasn't something that she could overcome for herself. She couldn't see herself in a specific way. And that gave you this beautiful gift and opportunity to see yourself as whole, as a hostess, as someone who can provide a space. And while that's absolutely beautiful, it still might come up and challenge you later on down the road.
Yeah.
Maybe you're going to have a nicer place and you're inviting people in, and for whatever reason you feel intimidated, and you have even more than you had before. And that's not something to be afraid of, and we don't lose our salvation. We don't lose our ability to see life on life's terms, but if we stop practicing, we do. Just like our muscles, if we don't use them, we lose them.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. We have a muscle of gratitude. We have a muscle of contentment. We have a muscle of peace. And if we don't exercise those muscles, if the universe does not consistently challenge us, we will atrophy.
Yeah.
I had to think of the word. I was like, what happens when a muscle dies? What does it do? And you know, a muscle, once it's atrophied, that same tissue is not going to grow back. It's going to be new tissue, right? Mm-hmm. So we create new muscle. And that's not a bad thing either, though. Yeah. So, you know, if we do find ourselves in cycles where we're not practicing as often, maybe we find that we're not reaping as much. We're not reaping as much of the benefit as we want. We don't feel the same levels of peace anymore. We don't feel the same levels of contentment or satisfaction. And that's very real. You know, people who have been studying spirituality for their entire lives still go through those cycles. People who have been studying spirituality get cancer. And do you know what supposedly starts cancer? Harboring fear, harboring bitterness, and harboring resentment. And when we look at spiritual leaders, we don't think that they could ever have that kind of darkness inside of them. But we do. All of us do.
Yeah, every single person.
And it's not wrong.
No.
It's just meant to be worked through. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What would humanity do if we didn't have all of these questions and difficulties in life?
It'd be too easy.
It would be too easy. Goodness gracious. And I just want to mention to everybody listening that both Callie and I have YouTube channels. We also have websites. All of that stuff's going to be linked in the description below. Callie and I are so pleased that you joined us today. We're really excited about creating this content for you because we feel that it's so important. And the more that we share our experience and our strength and our hope, the more we hope the rest of you find strength and hope to shift your own experience. So much love. Mwah.
Sending light and love always.
See you next time, friends.